Rage versus results, and the great Democrat freakout. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Being a liberal means never having to say you're sorry. An overstatement? Well, maybe. But given some of the more recent politically inspired acts of vandalism and violence, and of defamation and libel, it's closer to the truth than not. 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, it would have been unthinkable that major political and media figures would bend over backwards to excuse criminal behavior because they agreed with the perpetrator's political motivation. Yet in this age of rage, this happens all too frequently.
Didn't Jussie conflate the two? Didn't he, in fact, attempt to paint the MAGA supporters as these racist and homophobic people? I think
I have to disagree with you there.
If the story's true, that...
Yeah. Well, but, Michelle, I have to respectfully disagree. I think MAGA supporters have painted themselves as that.
Okay, well, the Jussie Smollett case is all at once depressing and enlightening. Well, it's depressing because so many seemed positively giddy. They were thrilled that a hate crime like that would have happened. Finally, they could draw a direct line from the support for Trump to support for almost a lynching. You had a noose, you had a racial and anti-gay slur. It was the politically perfect storyline that pushed all the right anti-Trump buttons.
A Hollywood star who's black and gay, and now the victim of a heinous crime.
The idea of racial slurs and maybe even some of the homophobic slurs being used toward him, you can see how serious this crime is right now.
Absolutely despicable. And this is America in 2019.
So now, even when it seems like the entire thing was a sick charade, the race hustlers remain undaunted.
Interesting, when you use hatred and bigotry and lying for your own selfish end and you're a young black kid, gay black kid, you get indicted. If you do it when you're an old white guy, you become president. And I think there are enough monsters out there for real that we don't have to make any up. And I think that, you know, what white supremacists has never, they're at a historical high.
Now focus on that last line for just a moment. White supremacy in 2019 is worse than it was, let's say, in 1963 in Birmingham, Alabama, when water cannons and dogs were released on civil rights marchers, when children were blown up in churches. Trump-hating comedians, undeterred by actual facts, are suddenly aggressively unfunny. Comedian Billy Eichner saying, if it turns out the attack was staged, that is disgusting. But don't give me any BS about MAGA supporters being the victim here. A bunch of white supremacists falsely accused of inspiring a crime are still a bunch of white supremacists. They poison the soul of our country and of the world, and their crimes against humanity will be felt long after we've forgotten about Jussie Smollett. Crimes against humanity? Okay. Billy, like what? Policies that grow the economy and spur wage and job growth across the board, including for African Americans? That crime against humanity? Or the crime against humanity of creating, what, opportunity zones in some of our most debilitated communities? Or is it the crime of criminal justice reform that's a crime against humanity? You see what I'm saying? It's patently ridiculous. But this is all very enlightening, is it not? Because here's what's really happening. Trump's policies are actually working. We see it all around us. The Mueller report, it looks like it's going to be a dud. And liberal heroes are self-combusting before our very eyes. So the Democrat protectorate are in total freak-out mode. Let's look back. Their Kavanaugh accuser, Blasey Ford, flamed out. Their indigenous 2020 hopeful, Elizabeth Warren, was knocked off her high horse. Virginia's Democrat leaders are tangled up in blackface and Me Too scandals. And now, with Smollett, their dream of the perfect Trump-inspired hate crime has also fizzled. So now we're back to Donald Trump being Hitler, Pol Pot, and Stalin all rolled into one. That's the best they have. And while they mouth the requisite if Jussie did it, and this is wrong, well, they quickly then revert to their tired old narrative that today minorities should live in fear. Comedian Hari Kondabolu tweeting, "What Jussie Smollett is accused of is despicable. However, Don't forget that we believed he was the victim of such horrendous hate crime because it's the type of thing that happens way too often, especially in the Trump era. He may have taken advantage of a very realistic fear. And the queen of racial fear-mongering, Mad Maxine Waters, she freely admits she believed Jussie's ridiculous story because his views checked all the liberal boxes.
He's a friend. He was at my office. We marched in the Pride Parade together. He introduced me at Black Girls Rock, and so I believed him when I heard about it.
Well, if Congresswoman Waters wanted to learn something, she might try to engage with Black Americans who see this all very differently. They aren't looking to blame Trump or conservatives for all of their woes, past or present. What they're looking for are real solutions and real hope.
Every citizen alive today and generations yet unborn are forever in debt of the brave souls who stared down injustice and championed the eternal cause of civil rights. And by the way, as you've been hearing me say, African American unemployment is at an all-time low, historic low.
Well, the scene last night at the White House is part of what inspires the ongoing Democrat freakout. The real possibility that President Trump, at the Black History Month celebration, it was oversubscribed, had more than 300 people, people couldn't even get in, that maybe, just maybe, Donald Trump could peel off 5%, maybe even 10% more of the black vote in 2020. That's unnerving to the left. But there's a new movement emerging.
I really don't even understand why so many people hate black people, well, people that look like me and him, hate this president. Because this man has done more than any other president has done for people that look like me and him.
I always said, don't get caught up in the emotions.
What about the S-hole countries comment? And what about, well, you know, it's always, you
That's
know,
emotion. That don't pay bills. That don't build
exactly.
businesses. That doesn't do anything except keep this junk going that has no substance in black America.
Well, the Democrats' race baiting and the fear-mongering, it's only going to go so far. But if they keep it up, emotionally worn-out African-American voters may do what Democrats fear most: tune them out and focus on Trump's record of accomplishment in their communities. And that's The Angle.